capital, or in terms of natural resources. But what is very important, and I just want to emphasize this, is that it really doesn't matter much in what sector you're competing. It's not what matters. It doesn't matter what you do, but how productively you're competing in that particular sector. I hear in the Caribbean, everywhere I go, that it is important to diversify our economy. It is fundamental that we find other ways of competing, which is, yes, true. But at the end of the day, what matters is not in what context are you competing, but how successfully are you able to compete there. In Trinidad now, unfortunately, they have about 7 different sectors that they want to diversify their economy. 7 sectors. I don't think that is feasible in the short term. Now, another aspect of productivity is not just about developing national firms or domestic firms, but as well inviting foreign firms to compete locally. Because what's interesting about foreign firms is that they tend to bring best practices. They raise the bar in terms of the value proposition that offer to the customer. And at the end of the day, who really drives innovation? It's not the companies who drive innovation. It's all of you as consumers that, by becoming more sophisticated buyers and users of services and products, who actually be able to pull more innovation for customers. So really innovation is really ingrained in the culture of a country. There are countries that are very demanding and sophisticated in terms of their products and their services. And other countries, like they just settle for less. They accept the way, the waitress, I call her 10 times and she doesn't listen to me. Well, it's just the way it is. And other countries where, this is unacceptable. I want to speak to the mother of the owner of this restaurant. So, only competitive businesses could create wealth and jobs. Sorry, but yes, the government has a lot to deal with it, but it's, in general, governments have not been very good over the world on creating wealth. That's not their role. It's the role of businesses to create wealth. Okay? So, nations compete at the end of the day to offer the more productive environment and context for business. Right? But they compete for the context. Now, to understand as well, there are 2 types, basically, of prosperity. The one was inherited, and the one was created. Developing countries, like ours, tend to live on inherited prosperity. The problem is that it is based on natural resources, and those natural resources, by definition, are limited. And whenever that happens, unfortunately, the role of government is too important and too central. And that brings a lot of challenges in terms of managing resources. Okay? But whenever you are dealing with created prosperity, which are really the results of your capacity of producing goods and services. Therefore, prosperity is not limited by your natural endowments, but it's just limited by what? By your capacity to innovate. Now, you have a product. What percentage of that cost of the product that you are producing you can cut? Can you cut? What's the maximum percentage that you can cut in costs? 10%? 20%? You can. It is bounded. It's limited. The best percentage of cost that you can cut in any product is 100%, right? You cannot go beyond that. But what about the capacity to create value for a customer? Is it limited? It's infinite. It has no boundaries. Therefore, prosperity is not about dividing the pie. It's about expanding the pie, creating new markets. Okay? And at the end of the day, whenever you are into a creation of prosperity mode, it's not the government, the central actor, but the businesses who actually become the central actor, and the government's role is actually becoming the enabler of these, businesses that will foster productivity. Now, how you produce productivity? What kind of things we have to focus at the end of the day? There are 6 pillars, and they're very, very simple. Domestic investment, which is actually a reflection of how local people trust its own institutions and its own capacity to make the internal market grow. Critical. Exports, which is a reflection of your level of competitiveness abroad. Imports, as well as critical as exports. Inbound foreign direct investment, your capacity to attract investors from abroad. But there are 2 tricky ones that very few countries actually understand very well. One is outbound foreign direct investment. And what do we mean by outbound foreign direct investment? It's actually the amount of capital that country A invests abroad in different countries. So imagine that Guyana, sets up a fund run by the private sector and go out to acquire Nestle in Switzerland and turn that into a Suriname company. That is outbound foreign direct investment. Now, let me tell you one little experience that I had when I was working in Miami. I was the dean of School of Business in Miami for some years, and actually I had the opportunity to launch the first Latin American School of Business in the USA. And it was actually a for-profit School of Business that was funded by a hedge fund in Chile. And I was working there, in Rico, very nice place. And then I received a phone call from the ambassador of Chile in the United States. They speak very funny in Chile. I won't say it, but they're very funny. Very, very funny. But interesting enough, he said, Miguel, the Minister of Trade and Development would like to, give you a visit. Can you receive him now? I said, well, for sure, what an honor. And then, he said, well, Miguel, we want you to give us some ideas of how can we invest, how can we actually attract opportunities for Chile. So whenever, you think about foreign direct investment, you say, well, this, minister is looking to sell their country, to sell his country and attract foreign investors. I said, well, I can introduce you to some, American investors, venture capitalists who actually are now investing a lot in shipping and software development. I said, no, Miguel. Now, I want you to help me out, to give me a list of potential firms that could be great targets for acquisitions for Chilean companies. So I said, what? Well, Miguel, it's very simple. We are a very tiny country. We have just 17 million people. We cannot increase the prosperity of our country if we keep just focusing our growth in our own country. So we have to go out and start acquiring firms abroad that have a bigger and larger market, so we can actually create a wealthier country beyond borders. What's for me